Hello. So the last time we did the rudders on the back here and a bit of like linkage to a servo that's going to be underneath the deck here. And yeah, so what I've done now is I've created the throttle. So we've basically got another servo sitting under the deck here. It's got an arm coming out through exactly the same type of O-ring sealing type effort with a square key. And yeah, that sits on there. Linkage goes back through this rather handy hole here, which probably will be enlarged, but we'll get to that later. And it goes to an arm here. So you can see this. I've extended the base plate here out. It's got a hole through it, which you can just about see there. And yeah, this arm goes through. It's got a sort of specific angle and length, which probably again will need adjusting, but we'll see how that works out to get the right sort of ratio of twist and all that kind of stuff. So it comes out the other side, and yeah, another link arm goes up to the what do you call it, carburetor. Oh, it's not really zooming properly. Yeah, there we go. So yeah, then basically if the linkage moves somewhere, so we'll just move it down at this pivot here, we'll pull it back. You can see that that is, well, we can't quite see the servo. Let's get the servo in shot. So if we move this backwards and forwards, basically that's the servo at the front, moving around and about a bit, pulling that, pushing that, pushing that, pushing that, and opening the throttle. So that kind of is the throttle done. And in fact, by and large, that really is the sort of majority of the components for the boat there. When I say the majority, it's kind of all actually. So now I need to kind of translate this into a reality, because there are some things that need a lot more attention in order to make this viable. For example, this duct is going to be 3D printed, maybe out of PLA or ABS, I'm not sure. But it's going to be really heavy at the moment. We need to sort of hollow this all out as much as possible. The same with this whole engine structure here. And I want to build some, in theory, to begin with, right at the beginning, was what I'm trying to say. I had planned on just kind of gluing all of the plywood parts together, cutting them out and gluing them together. But although that's probably possible, I think it'll be a lot easier if I build myself some sort of guide, some little structures, as light as possible, 3D printed, just to go sort of in the hole at various points, so we can actually, we've got something to pin these little bits of plywood down to. And I have started with this work. Let's have a little look at this. Turn that on. We can't see anything yet. So if I turn that off, okay, so in fact let's turn off that nose as well. Where are we? Nose. Okay, so the nose is just this little bit here. This is the rounded bit, which will, yeah, in some way that I haven't decided yet, adhere to the front here. If I turn it off, you'll see the reason why. So this is where the batteries for the radio controls will go, and it's sort of all part of the lower structure, as you may have seen before, or as I probably showed before. There was a structure at the front here that basically just held the servos. It was a monstrous thing. I've now adapted, extended, increased that, so that, as you can see, it runs all the way down the side of the boat, so it provides a structure to both bolt the floats to the center hull, and it gives us something to sort of adhere and wrap the plywood of the bottom of the center hull and obviously the top deck to. It also allows us in certain places to screw down into this 3D printed part underneath the hull to give the whole thing a bit of strength. So that's the case there. And this engine support structure at the back here bolts down to it as well. So yeah, that gives it all a little bit of strength and hopefully makes it easy to build. The downside is that it adds considerable weight. Now I have, as you can see, I've cut out as much of this as I really want to. So little material there. I'm not sure whether it's really going to provide any strength, but at least it will provide a jig, if you like. So it also performs the function still of holding the servos, and it also performs the functions of being a little battery box. And so essentially what happens is then at some point and in some way yet to be defined, the little nose will screw or slot or a combination of on the front just to hold the batteries in and to provide the sort of rounded front. Now this is red because this is now starting to be made out of a correct material. What I've done is I've made a sort of simulation, the best that I can, of a 40% infill PLA density. So I've taken the density of PLA, I've added some solid perimeters, and yeah, I've come up with a sort of density figure for a sort of 40% with something around about 3 to 4 layer perimeters to come up with a density. And if we open up this part by itself, we can see that if we go to evaluate mass properties, this is coming in at 317 grams all by itself, which is a kind of considerable heft really on the boat, but it will save us a bit of plywood, so we'll grab something back there. And I think it's necessary, to be honest. That's just how it is. I think when we get to the end, obviously you're going to have to recalculate all the weights and the buoyancy and all that kind of stuff. So if the hull needs to be extended slightly to give more lift or more buoyancy to support a bit of extra weight, then so be it. So let's close that. There is one kind of important thing missing from this design so far, and that is the radio receiver. The reason being is that the only spare radio receiver I have is what they call a park flyer thing, i.e. a low power limited range, which I think might be a bit sketchy. So I'm going to have to get myself another full range receiver, and until I do that I don't really know the dimensions of it. So the next things that need to happen is I need to revisit the duct, and I need to convert it to red. If only it was that simple. Basically change it to my 40% infill PLA, get a weight of the thing and start shaving away as much of it as I possibly can. I need to try and get it down to about 200 grams is what I estimated in my original guesstimations. Yeah, so that's the next thing to be done.